This is every fight to make after the UFC 318 event. Let's get straight into it. I'm only covering the winners because, as always, we're sending the losers to retirement, and I'm also only doing the main card because I'm a casual. This card overall was a little bit mid. The fights themselves weren't too bad, but the name value just didn't feel there, except for the main event obviously. But kicking off the main event, we had Michael Johnson win by unanimous decision. Hear me out. Retirement. Even though he won, he's old, man. I'm just kidding. If I'm the UFC, I match him up with Terrence McKinney. I think this will be a great fight. They're both sitting outside of the rankings and they're both big names in the UFC. Obviously, Terrence McKinney is a lot younger. He's not super young, but he's still kind of a prospect, I guess you could say. This is a fan favorite matchup, but I think it's a very winnable fight for both fighters. It's not like an old veteran being fed to the wolves kind of storyline. Not like Paddy Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson, basically. Even though he's on his way out, Michael Johnson is running a 3-fight win streak, not against massive names, but his confidence is high. Terrence McKinney obviously running a 2-fight win streak. If you look at his record, it's a bit spotty, you know, it's like 2 wins here, 2 losses there. But one thing I really noticed about his record is that he's never really fought a big name, except for Grant Dawson. I don't know if you count that as a big name, but I feel like Michael Johnson is someone with significant name value. He's also been in the top 5 of the division, so this could really boost up his career if he does win. So yeah, give him Terrence McKinney. Next up, we had Pitbull win by unanimous decision against Dan Ige. I wish I could just skip this as a whole and send him to the PFL. I don't know about you guys, but for me, like, I genuinely find Pitbull's fighting style so boring. His fighting style is literally like 13 minutes of staring at his opponent doing nothing and then 2 minutes of genuine action. And I feel like it gaslits the entire fan base to think that Pitbull's this amazing, exciting fighter. Rant over. After his win over the weekend, he will most likely be ranked number 9 or 10. When you look at the top 10 of this division, a lot of these guys are either matched up or you're someone like Yair Rodriguez just sitting there doing nothing and claiming a title shot somehow. That's why I think you give him Josh Emmett, especially if you're not a fan of Pitbull. Give him Josh Emmett. But on the real, I think this is a great fight for Josh Emmett because it gets him back on track. It's also a very winnable fight for him. These guys both have very similar styles, but I think Josh Emmett will definitely have the power advantage in this fight, which is something that Pitbull tends to really heavily rely on, mainly because he's not a volume striker. He just waits for the counter to try and land a big shot on his opponent. So I feel like this could either be a very, very boring fight or an early win for Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett has also only fought twice in the past 2 years. I don't know where bro has been since that Elliot Poirer fight. He's been extremely inactive and Pitbull's quite old. When you look at it, you know, the UFC brought him in to try to bum rush him to a title fight, so they're not going to really just put him on the sidelines for a long time. They probably want him to be active, and Josh Emmett also needs to be active. He's not getting any younger himself. So I think this is a fight that can be done relatively quickly because let's be real, Pitbull will not be fighting for a UFC title. I probably sound like the biggest Pitbull hater, but okay, you know what? I'll take that. When you look at the top 10 of this division, I truly believe majority of them beat him. Granted, he beat Dan Ige, but I don't know, man. I truly do think that Dan Ige definitely could have won that fight if he just threw more strikes. Like I said, I think this will be a quick turnaround for Pitbull. I highly doubt he took much damage in his recent fight, especially when you look at the amount of strikes thrown. Come on, man. And like I said, Josh Emmett needs to be active, so book this. Next up, we had Daniel Rodriguez beat Kevin Holland by unanimous decision. This was a great performance. For me, this was fight of the night. I know somehow Marvin Vettori and Brendan Allen got it. Also, hold up. How did they get the fight of the night over Max Holloway and Dustin Poirer? But anyway, D-Rod had a great performance. I think it's a great win for him. It's a big name, Kevin Holland. D-Rod's next opponent will be improving his cardio. We saw him get completely gassed in that 3rd round. He wasn't even getting hit with any big shots from Kevin Holland, but he looked like he was about to give up strictly because he was tired. So genuinely, he needs to improve his cardio if he's going to keep fighting up the rankings. He will probably be ranked number 13 in the coming days. This guy's been flying under the radar. He's on a 3-fight win streak. It's not like they've all came by KO. Some of them haven't really been the most exciting fights, but he's been an active fighter. That's why I think the UFC should give him Carlos Prates next. Obviously, Carlos Prates coming off the loss to Ian Gary, I think he needs a good bounce back fight, and I truly think this is a very winnable fight for Prates. And if not, this will be a really good fraud check. I think you can't really take too much away from Carlos Prates losing to Ian Gary because I think Ian Gary is just really that good. But like I said, you can't give Prates someone that's, you know, in the top 10. You have to give someone that's kind of hovering just outside that top 10, and I think D-Rod's the perfect opponent. It's a veteran versus a prospect, but it's also not, again, Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. I think this fight will be a war, but like I said, I think this is definitely a winnable fight for Prates, and it's also a fight that the fan base will love. I think Prates is ranked number 12 right now, so this fight just makes all the sense in the world. This is very obvious to me, so I hope the UFC does not fumble this matchup. Give me a call and I'll sort the matchups out for you. Anyway, moving on to the co-main event, we had Paulo Costa restarting his title run. Let's freaking go. Honestly, this was a really exciting fight. A great performance by Paulo Costa, dare I say, probably one of the best performances he's put on since, I would say, prior to the Adesanya fight. He actually threw a lot of volume in this fight, which is something that he has not done in his past 2 fights against Strickland and Whittaker. That's why I picked against him, and I thought he would lose this fight just from sheer lack of volume. But he came in with a great game plan. Looking at the rankings, he's fought majority of the top 10 guys, and the last thing you want to do, especially with a guy like Paulo Costa, is just start giving him rematches. Come on, man, he's on his title run arc right now. That's why I say you give Paulo Costa the winner of Jared Cannonier versus MVP. These guys are set to fight, I think, next month. So whoever wins this fight, give him Paulo Costa. He was meant to fight Jared Cannonier a couple years ago, and obviously he's never fought MVP, so these are 2 fresh matchups for him, and fighting the winner will be a matchup for him that could propel him to a title shot. Because hear me out, especially if Chimaev wins, this is a fight that I know the UFC will want to book, and to be honest, there's a genuine rivalry between these two. The winner of Cannonier versus MVP will likely be ranked number 6 or 7, so I think if Costa fights the winner and then wins, you could kind of justify a title shot, kind of. And to be honest, you can't give Paulo Costa a boring name. He's one of those guys that I feel like is just such a fan favorite that it would just be such a waste for the UFC to give him someone boring. And like I said, no one wants to see Costa versus Izzy 2 or Costa versus Whittaker 2 or even Costa versus Strickland 2. Please don't make that fight. So yeah, I'm here for the Paulo Costa title run. I want to see him versus Chimaev. Moving on to the main event winner, Max Holloway defeats Dustin Poirer by unanimous decision. Great fight, give him Dan Hooker. I know everyone's saying they want to see the Charles Oliveira rematch, but hear me out. Charles Oliveira, he needs to take as much time off as possible, especially after that KO loss to Ilia Topuria. I think Max Holloway, especially if you're the UFC, you want Max Holloway to be active moving into the lightweight division. I don't think you can justify giving him a title shot right now. He just got KO'd from Ilia Topuria, and he's got the BMF belt, which I'm a fan of, and I think you should really utilize that as much as you can. Because if you give him Ilia Topuria and then put the BMF title on the line like Dana White said in the post-fight press conference, Ilia Topuria is just going to be this freaking goblin hogging all of the titles. Like, that's not what you want. So I think you let Charles sleep for a little bit, you let him rest, and you do Dan Hooker versus Max Holloway in the meantime. Dan Hooker is a fighter that's worthy of something like the BMF title, and for me, this is a fight that I've wanted to see for so long. I even asked Dana White for this matchup in a post-fight press conference a couple months ago.
Assuming Max goes up for his next fight to lightweight, who comes to mind for a match with him?
I don't even know. Right here, right now, I have no idea.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Dan Hooker.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dan Hooker is in the top 5 and is, I think, the only person that makes sense for Max Holloway right now, because I think that Justin Gaethje will be fighting Paddy Pimblett for that number 1 contender spot, and I think, to be honest, Arman will probably be getting the next title shot. As much as Dana White does not want to see it, I think it makes the most logical sense right now. And to be honest, no one wants to see Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje 2 or Max Holloway versus Arman Tsarukyan. Definitely no one wants to see that. And I think Charles Oliveira could come back early next year and fight whoever has the BMF title anyway. So yeah, those are my matchups following the UFC 318 event over the weekend. Let me know what you guys think of my matchups, and who do you guys think Max Holloway should fight next. Make sure you guys do drop a like on this video and make sure to subscribe. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.